How are you fuckers doing tonight? Alex the Kid Seymour here, your favorite trans boy comedian. So, I'm coming at you today from Stockholm. I decided to sit outside so you could see a bit of this lovely scenery that I'm in right now. The hostel I'm staying in is actually this boat right here. How fucking cool is that? Alright, so the topic of this video is backpacking through Europe while transgender. Greetings, Mr. Seagull. Not Steven, not Jason, just the bird that's making all that noise. Anyway. So, what this video is about is essentially tips on backpacking through Europe while trans. Now, some of this stuff will be useful to trans women, but most of it is sort of geared towards trans guys, just because that's the only thing I can really talk about firsthand. I know there's a lot of trans guys out there that would like to backpack through Europe, but are nervous about it for a myriad of, good reasons. But I got some tips, life hacks, if you will. Alright, so the first tip that I have is regarding documents. So, say you're in a situation like I'm in, where you cis-pass pretty much all the time, but your documents still say your dead name and gender assigned at birth. Yeah, that can be kind of a tough situation to be in, especially when you're dealing with, going through immigration, that moment when they look at your passport and, well, it doesn't look like you, so then you have to deal with that. Well, that's definitely an uncomfortable moment, but basically what you gotta do, and I've done this, obviously I left the US, I'm here, and so it worked. With your passport, you have any sort of documentation you have, essentially, that proves you're trans. So in my case, I had the receipt from my top surgery scheduling. I had an info sheet about hormone replacement therapy from my endocrinologist. Just anything you have, essentially, that has documentation of the fact that you are indeed trans, and you just keep that with your passport. Don't pull it out right away, but if when you show the passport, if they ask questions, that's when you pull it out. And yeah, also your birth certificate too, just because the more sources of identity you have, the better. Okay, so that's the first tip, is to carry the gender transition documentation on you. Alright, so the second tip, along the same vein, well, because you want to be in that, dealing with the document situation as little as possible, I recommend not bringing any checked baggage. So the way to do that is to get a frame pack that's big enough to keep you going for a while, but small enough to still sort of count as a carry-on. I've got a green bag from the company Deuter. I've had it for a few years. I have a picture of it on the bed of the hostel I'm currently staying in, so I'll attach that so you guys can see it. But yeah, to give you an idea, I put it on my bed and I lined it up, and basically it's the length of a baseball cap plus a glasses case plus just a regular sized paperback book. So it's not that long, but I've lived out of that bag for you could live out of that bag for months at a time as long as you, pack wisely. I'm not going to give you packing tips because chances are if you're someone who wants to backpack through Europe, you probably, that's not that different. Okay, so the next tip is, when it comes to hostels, definitely go for the private room, always. Sure, the private room is going to be a little bit more expensive, but a private room in a hostel is still significantly less expensive than a hotel room. So, like, it's definitely still affordable, and it's worth it because, well, if you're a trans guy especially, the, like, privacy factor is important, especially since with, like, you know, long flights, bus rides, etc., there are going to be moments when you're going to have your binder on, you know, longer than is healthy, so you want to be able to, you know, take a break from that. And if you're staying in a dorm with, like, a whole bunch of people, chances are you're not going to feel comfortable about that, and that's not good. So, yeah, definitely spring for the private rooms. And then the third major tip, and this may be kind of obvious, but, like, research how LGBT friendly the places you're going are before you decide to go there. So, like, for instance, I've always really wanted to go to India. I've wanted to go to Egypt. There are certain places in like southern and western Africa I've wanted to go. Certain places in South America that I definitely plan to go to, but not until my documents match up, just because I don't want to have those sort of extra red flags on me. But, you know, going to Europe, well, most places in Europe are pretty queer friendly, especially like Scandinavia and Western Europe. So, like, on this trip, for instance, I started in, like, I've gone to Iceland, here in Stockholm, and a couple different places in Germany, and I didn't run into any issues in any of those places. And as long as you keep all of those documents on you at all times, if, like, you do run into any sort of, like, dead name issues or whatever when you're paying for something with a credit card, well, then you have those. And yeah, well, essentially, well, those are my tips, basically. Anything else that you are curious about, just go ahead and ask me the question in the comments. I'll respond. Good night, fuckers.